Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain, and today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing Dreamember. Now, Dreamember is a game published by Studio Supernova and was designed by Ignacio Panades. Now, I do want to give a big thank you to Studio Supernova for sending me this copy of Dreamember to play and review. Now, before I get too into this, I do want to say I've got to make some various disclosures before I review this game. So the first thing I gotta say is, so I wrote the story for this game. So in the beginning of the game, there is a one-page storyline that is the storyline of the game, and that was written by me. So I do feel I need to disclose that because while I did not have anything to do with the work on the actual game, I was involved at one level of the production. Um, yeah. Now, also though, on the other end, and this, take these disclosures for what they are. This is a word game, and I'm a little iffy on word games. So if you are a big fan of word games, you might rate this game higher than me. I'm a little hit or miss with word games, usually more on the miss side. So, those are two big things that might influence my score. So I want to disclose them. I don't actually think the first thing will influence my score, but if I did disclose it, somebody would have said in the comments, "Hey, you didn't disclose it." So I made sure to tell you that I did do, in fact, some work on the storyline for this game. So now the game comes in a nice box where you've got the artwork on the outside and in, based on, of course, Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Now, I'm a big fan of this painting, so I love the choice of using his artwork for the artwork in the box, as well as on the cards, because you see in a minute here, the cards for the base game are all letters where you have bits of the painting behind them. Now you have red letters and you have white letters, and these are important distinctions in the way the game is played. You see the white letters are memory cards. The red letters are Oblivion cards. So the way it plays is each player starts with a hand of 7 cards, and you deal 4 face-up cards into the middle of the table. When cards are being dealt face-up into the middle of the table, you can have multiple cards of the same letter as long as they're the same color. So multiple white C's would be okay until a red C comes up. If a red C comes up, it replaces all of the white C's. They have to go away. And then you would keep drawing again until you have 4 cards in the middle of the table. Now, on your turn, you have to think of a word that you can make that contains all of the white letters on the table. If there are multiple of the same letters, like say there's 2 B's, you might have to think of a word that has 2 B's in it, like bubble, as an example. Once you've thought of this word, and then also the other thing is the word cannot contain any of the letters that are on Oblivion cards that are face up, any of the red letters. So the white letters, the memory cards, have to be in there. The red letters don't have to be in there. Letters that are not on the table, either white or red, either on a memory card or an Oblivion card, can be included or not included at your discretion. So if, again, you've got, in my example, two memory cards with B's. You've got a red F, and you have a white memory card L, so an Oblivion card F, memory card L, and 2 memory card B's. Bubble is fine. Those extra letters, the U and such, they're not mentioned, so it's fine. I can include them. But then if a Oblivion card E comes up, now I can't do bubble anymore. I'm going to have to think of a new word. So on your turn, what you're going to be doing is you play a card, changing the requirements in the middle slightly, and then you think of a word that fits those requirements. Once you do that, you're good. You play your card, and you're good to go. Now, if one of your opponents thinks you're bluffing, they can throw their hand on the deck and say challenge. If they do, you have to immediately say your word. If you say your word, then what happens is they have to draw 2 cards. You shuffle all the cards that were out back into the deck and start over again, dealing up 4 cards. But if you can't say the word, you draw 2 cards, and the same thing happens about restarting the letters out on the table. Now, if you don't want to bluff, and you can't play a card and come up with something. You can just draw a single card and say pass. So you keep playing until somebody can get rid of all of the cards in their hand. So then, if you are able to play your final card from your hand, the last card in your hand, and then when you play the last card in your hand, you must say the word. Even without being challenged, you have to say the word. You win the game of Dreamember. Now, there is one alternate method of play, major alternate method of playing here. It comes with some special cards which have actions about like skipping other people's turns or reversing order. Very similar to the kind of things in the game of Uno, the classic game of Uno. They have cards like that, basically. But that's really it. That's all there is to playing the game of Dreamember. So first off, I want to start with some negatives so we can end on positives. My first big negative is I do not like the special cards. I think a lot of those things in Uno are very dated, and I think that stuff that makes you skip a turn, it's not fun. It's never fun to just not get a turn. So I don't like actions like that in a game because they don't encourage fun. So that's my first negative. I'm not a fan of those, but it's a minor negative because they're an optional rule. You don't have to play with them, and I don't, so that's fine. My next negative I have is, and this is only a negative for some people, not others, but it's a little bit of a negative for me, is the game is very simple. It can be a good icebreaker game, but I usually like, even my light games have a little more to it in the rules department. This is a very basic game. Minor negative. A little bit of a bigger negative is I really feel like the game should have come with a sand timer or instructions to use a timer on your phone to limit length of turns, because this game is super prone to analysis paralysis. It's a big problem I had while testing out this game. People take forever with their turns. I think you should, personally, I'm planning to house rule it that I'm going to use either a 3 or 5 minute timer, whatever we agree on in the group, and we're going to set it every time someone's turn begins. That's how long they have, and if they run out of time, they just got to draw a card and pass. Because you really do need to figure out if you want, if you have a word or not, and just, do it or don't. Yeah, because otherwise it really prolongs the game and it can make it drag a bit. All right, so positives. This game adds a really fun bluffing mechanic to a basic word game. So now the game is very simple, and it's very reminiscent of a lot of older word games, and there's a lot I'm sure you can think of that it reminds you of, but the interesting different addition is adding a whole bluffing game to it, and I really dig that. So it's kind of like a cross, in my mind, between games like Scrabble, where you're looking at a bunch of letters and trying to figure out what word you can make with it, and a game like Liar's Dice, where you could just be like, oh yeah, I totally know what I can make with this. And it's up to your opponents to call you on it. Sometimes people are going to call you just to get rid of all the cards in the row. Sometimes it might be worth it to someone to risk having to draw 2 cards just to get rid of all the stuff out there, because like there's nothing I can think of to make with these letters, and I want to start over. But yeah, that whole bluffing mechanic does add an extra element in that is really cool, and I do like that. That is a lot of fun. But yeah, that's basically it. There's not a huge amount to talk about with this game because of how simple the rules are, and yeah, it's a fun little family weight, very lightweight icebreaker word game with a bluffing mechanic. So if you are a fan of word games and you're a fan of bluffing games, and this game is going to be right up your alley. It's going to be the sort of game you would enjoy. And then I could definitely recommend it to you. I'm going to give it, for me personally, I'm going to give Dreamember 6 out of 10 stars. I do like the game. I'm positive on it. I will play it on occasion. It is going to have a spot in my collection, at least for a while. But I do need to be in the mood to play it. But again, a big part of that is because I myself am just kind of iffy on word games. So if you are a big fan of word games, you're probably going to like this game higher than me, especially if you also like bluffing games. See, now the bluffing game was the bluffing side was the part I liked the most, whereas the word game kind of, which is the main part of the game, kind of held it back for me because I'm not a big word game person. That said, this is a fun word game, and I did enjoy playing it, and I would play it again. I'm just going to need to be in the mood and have the right group of people to play it with. But there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on the game of Dreamember, feel free to comment down below. And if you enjoyed this quick review of a light card game, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.